Hello, welcome to Rock My Restaurant, Episode 6 in our podcast series. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Eric Norman. Say howdy, Eric.
How are we doing this morning, Bill?
We're doing great, and we're going to be talking today about the team member experience. It's one of the most important things in the restaurant, and it revolves around culture. And a lot of the principles that we'll talk about are derived from the 1 Minute Manager, a famous business book by Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson, along with many things that are going to improve your performance. Let's get started. I started my career working for my parents at a young age when I was 13. And when I got a little older, I was 16, I started working for a small organization called Steak and Ale Restaurants.
Right.
Steak and Ale was started by Norman Brinker in Dallas, Texas in 1966, and I joined him in about 1970, 71 in that era. And I was a junior in high school in Rockville, Maryland. And when you look at the amount of people that have come out of that organization and are now in leadership roles or ownership roles in many hundreds of organization companies around the world, a lot of those came out of the original people that were at Steak and Ale. And Eric, the thing that was so exciting there, if you think of it, what was the culture of that restaurant company, the brand at that? And we were really at the forefront of the industry starting casual dining, and Norman Brinker is giving credit with starting casual dining. And my first day walking into the restaurant, I walked into a brand new building, a brand new facility, shiny stainless steel equipment, everything was new, great floors, great walls, everything worked, all the equipment was wonderful. And the people that I worked with and trained me were fantastic. And that was really the key.
And I think, when we talk about team member experience, that's really what we're looking at. It's a holistic look at how that employee, if you will, we like to use team member as it's a much better term, as you want to be inclusive of that person as a team.
Right.
But it's a holistic look at how they interact not only with the people in the organization, but how they interact with the design of the front of the house, the design of the back of the house. And, let's dive into some more of those topics of how that person or team member is immersed in the culture and the facility itself.
That's right. And, there's high anxiety when you're a teenager or somebody young that haven't had a lot of experience moving into a new job. So we were teens, or we had, young college people working. And when we all worked together, really, after we realized we got hired, we got trained, and we were treated very well. Now, there was a couple things that made it interesting. We had a great work environment. We had excellent leadership and communication. We got to be around some attractive women that also worked at the restaurant, which was a real advantage when you're a teenager. But at the time, we were treated well by the people. We had uniforms, we had equipment that worked, and it was just a great facility, and we were able to do our jobs, and we were really treated well by the management and the leadership of the company.
Right, and when you say management, specifically 1 Minute Manager, what does 1 Minute Manager exactly mean, and how does that tie into the team member experience?
Right, well, Ken Blanchard's book and his co-author, they started this, almost 25, 30 years ago. And when you look at 1 Minute Manager principles, typically people are going in and finding things wrong. What a 1 Minute Manager does, or a servant leader does, is really find things that are going right.
Which is good, yeah.
And that is such a different take on everybody going in to look for the wrong things. We want to look for the right things and have team members actually thanked and taught and coached and developed and improve their whole workspace as they're working.
And we've all had bosses that work one of two ways. They try to change by punishment, or they try to change by reward, or kudos for doing a good job. And I think we always tend to like the ones that do the rewarding a lot more than the ones that do the punishing. So.
Absolutely, and when you can get young people, or even people now, the millennials are the subject now of a lot of our conversation, right?
Oh, absolutely,
so talk a little bit about the millennial. They're a different type of person now than what I worked with back when I started.
Right, and I'm considered a millennial. Actually, I was born in 1981, so that's on the very leading edge of the millennial generation. So I don't really necessarily fall into that category, because it's quite a wide range now. I think it's from 15 years old to 35, But what a lot of places are finding with the millennial generation is that they have to take on a whole different aspect of training and reward and interaction with those people. Just one thing that comes to mind is that a millennial coming to work for a restaurant, are they going to want to work on a cash register that has punch numbers still? Are they going to want an iPad-based system because they're digital natives, and that's what they know, and that's what they've grown up with?
It's a natural transition, what you're describing, how you create that type of environment. And if you look at right now, it's going to involve sourcing, recruiting, patterned interviews, personality assessments, the right hiring onboarding process, certified trainers, having a buddy system.
Yeah, you onboard your employees, you bring them on. And to go back to the millennial thing, I think is one really interesting fact about that is millennials are most of the time very environmentally conscious, sustainability conscious.
That's right.
So if you bring on a millennial and you bring them into your team, and at the same time you're wasting water, wasting power, and your waste management systems aren't set up properly, that person's going to be turned off.
So it
interweaves itself into everything that team member sees and how to train them. And you had mentioned personality assessment. That millennial personality is going to be 120 degrees different from the Gen I or Gen X or Gen Y personality.
When we start talking about the brand from day one and sharing and teaching and building on that, we're going to get people that know how to execute and deliver the brand, right? So when things are on brand, they can work it. But once again, when that message comes through and it goes out and gets watered down and isn't reinforced on a daily basis, that's when organizations fail usually. So it has to be reinvigorated, and we know what the environment has to be like. People want to have a good time where they're working, don't they? We have to have fun in the environment and enjoy it.
See, they take pride in what they're doing. To maintain a kitchen like that and keep it that clean, they have to have pride in their craft and pride in their facility. And that's another aspect of the team member experience. If you can build that pride in them, then it's gonna turn around and show itself back to the customer. It's going to be customer facing.
And when you look at back to the whole experience, there's some of the things that we can run down are team member safety, team member advancement, career opportunities that people can look at. A lot of times if we don't communicate with the team members, and we'll be saying, okay, God, I got to hire a new position or a new person, and we find somebody that might have an interest in that one area that's already working for us.
Right.
So when you have multi-units, you have people with a lot of different skill sets. There might be part-time employees, but what if they want to work full-time?
And I think something as simple as uniforms. A team member should be comfortable in their uniform. They should look good in it. They should take pride in it. You can go into some places that have uniforms that are raggedy. They look like they're 20 years old. They're out of date. That's another aspect of it.
Especially when they're customer facing, right?
Yes, exactly. They're the last line of defense before the customer.
That's
they got to look good.
That's right.
From the design side, my side, the back of the house, when I think about team member experience, I think about safety and comfort of a person in that kitchen, whether it's a prep cook, a line cook, somebody making salads or desserts. Is their workstation set up correctly? Is it ergonomically correct? Do they have all the tools they need at that workstation to get the job done without being completely miserable, running back and forth to the walk-in or to the pot sink.
Bending over 4,000 times a night, right? When you're working on a shift.
And then to take it a step further than that, so that we're looking at individual workstations, are they correct? But then we look at it as a whole. Is it comfortable in the kitchen? Is the temperature appropriate? Do the exhausters work properly enough to maintain a temperature where your employees aren't, dying in 100-degree humid weather? And those, I think if you set up and you maintain that facility where everything works and where the team member feels like they have a workstation that is well equipped and there's a comfortable space, they're going to stay on longer. They're going to be a loyal employee. They know that they're treated well. And so that's how design affects a team member. So something as simple as having lockers available for their belongings in a safe and secure location, team member meals. Recognize that they're working hard and that they're probably hungry too, and maybe if it's not a free meal, maybe a discounted meal, work out a structure. Another thing I think is really interesting is why don't we concentrate on team member loyalty programs?
That's right.
I've worked
that's a high fiver, baby, right there. Way to go, fist bump, baby.
But a team member loyalty program where you have incentivize your workers, reward them when they do a good job, and reward those team members for that hard work, because that makes them feel good about coming to work and it'll keep them coming back.
It really gets down to how the internal communications of an organization works and having the contact of a one-on-one with employees or a 30-second meeting every day. And when managers and employees are approachable and team members are working together, they're on a first name basis, right? And there's no lack of respect, but how the organization shares information, how things are put across on employee bulletin boards. And of course now we're in the process of having a lot of these, old paper decisions go digital, where you can have pre-shift briefings and use an iPad, show a video, and meet for 10 or 15 minutes before the start of a shift. These have big paybacks to organizations.
To keep the communication lines open between the employees and the management and the employees and each other. How does your front of the house staff interact with your back of the house staff? Is it an amicable relationship? Does it work? Is everybody happy with everybody else? And I think that's all just communication and keeping a line of it open all the time between the employees and
right. So
everyone.
I think there's just, we could go on for hours really talking about it, but some of the great chains and some of the great brands that are out there now are really looking at how they can make the most of the experience for the employees. And we're not talking about giving the store away. We're talking about doing smart things smart and sharing with the employees the information that's necessary, because the people in the restaurant industry want to advance in it. And we have a lot of transient people that come through, but we have a lot of other people, like the ProStart students that we work with in California and you work with in different parts of the country. As we work with ProStart students, they are the ones that are going to be the future leaders of the industry, because they're taking a professional at a young age. And I'm so excited to work with them, I know like you are, around the country.
Thank you again for joining us on the Rock My Restaurant podcast series. Be sure to check out our new content, and as always, you can connect with us on social media at RockMyRestoTV on Twitter. Have a good one.